When I am alone, I don't feel lonely. I'm not afraid of loneliness. What would be your interpretation of that? I don't know. What came to mind was maybe it was like a not so positive thought. And I'm not saying this is true, Daniel. This is just what appeared in my mind. So it's not necessarily true, but it felt like you're trying to patronize me, which really doesn't sound like it from that. Yeah, and I'm sure you weren't, but that's what came up for me, was my initial response, which sounds so abstract because it maybe doesn't really sound patronizing. When I'm alone, I don't feel lonely. I'm not afraid of loneliness. So yes. Daniel says, no, I wasn't. So this is really interesting. So, like, if you're a really sensitive person, like I'm really sensitive, and this is really not about Daniel, I'm just doing this to explore with people, then what can happen to you if you're really sensitive is you feel things intuitively, and if you then bring it up in conversation, like other people say that that's not true, and the thing is other people don't necessarily know if that's true or not, because they're not really conscious of what they're feeling. Like a lot of people in society aren't conscious of what they're feeling. And I'm really not talking about you, Daniel. I'm going to get to your question. I'm going to answer it. And I really respect that you say, no, I wasn't, and that you know what you're talking about and feeling. But I just want to explore this subject with people. So what happens to you if you're very sensitive is that you end up not trusting yourself and not trusting your feelings, and it can make you very like unreliable in the feeling world. And it tends to be a habit because most of us were brought up by parents that weren't so conscious. There maybe are some people that have really conscious parents that were really self-conscious. So what will have happened in that scenario, without a doubt, is that your parents will have denied a lot of their emotions to you. And as a young kid, you're like wide open, you're mostly super perceptive, and then your parents unconsciously teach you to not trust your feeling and your decisions. Especially if you're like really sensitive, like everybody gets different skills when they're born into this life. It's like karma. And if some people get born in with like lots of empathy and very sensitive to their environment, and then they sort of grow up in a family that's constantly denying them those feelings. Like, so if you said to your parents, are you angry now? They'd be like, no, I'm not angry. Or is dad upset? No, of course he's not upset. Like you can just imagine it, but this is continuous and from a very young age. And then when you get into adulthood, what begins to happen is the person begins to really not trust their feelings, and so they end up in situations that where their intuition says to not trust something, but they're feeling so their intuition, but the environment and the external people deny that. And so just noticing, because that can create a kind of craziness and kind of a really erratic emotions and behaviors. So just noticing that, if that's something that happens to you. And then what these people can get obsessed with is like truth or lies. Like, what is truth? And it could be good because it gets them into this subject maybe, or it could be they become a detective, or they become like all these amazing things because of it. But in their personal life, it might create a lot of drama. Like, it's important to know what you think and feel and to trust that. So hey Daniel, so maybe you can explain by what you wanted from me when I read that. So you said, hello Lisa, when I'm alone I don't feel lonely. I'm not afraid of loneliness. What would your interpretation of that be? So maybe you could explain what you wanted or what you were trying to say by that. I will ask a different question, but maybe you can do that while I answer a different question from someone else. Actually, I was trying to figure out how my friend can befriend more non-duality. I love this subject. I think it's none of your business, said with love, whether they are involved in non-duality or not. I think that's your issue, not theirs. None of our beeswax, and I don't mean that the saying that really harsh, like so many times, not now, but when I was younger, like trying to, I didn't try that much, but wanting other people to be involved in this. And now they can be like, I see people suffering and I think how nice it would be if they're into this subject, but it's none of our beeswax. They have to live out their karma, and it's all to do with us, not wanting to see their suffering, not wanting to see their discomfort, or wanting to share it with them. Thanks, Daniel. That my brother or friend sometimes ask why I want to be alone instead of going to see them or something. They tell me it's not normal, but sometimes I feel better alone. Thank you for taking the time to read our comments. Yeah. Sometimes when you're with people, you can maybe, one, pick up on their energy. Two, it could create lots of seeking energy in you. Or three, it could be that you don't feel like you can be yourself, authentically yourself on the human level, and that will create lots of seeking. So then being by yourself is more relaxing. Yeah, in society, generally being by yourself is seen as a form of depression or seen as negative. Can also be really positive. Can be both. Thanks, Daniel. And remember to like the video if you like it. Thank you. I wish you well. Goodbye. Have a beautiful evening or day.